The search and rescue effort continues off the Greek coast, but there's little hope of finding bodies, let alone survivors. With hundreds of migrants and refugees missing, their families are desperately searching for any information about them. Outside a centre in Athens for the DNA testing of relatives, we meet Maz from Nottingham. A cousin and nephew from Pakistani-administered Kashmir were on board.
We don't know what to think, because we're not sure if they have survived or they haven't survived. Obviously, we've got a bit of hope that they have. We're trying to hold on to that, but at the same time, if we get clarity, then we can move on. But no one's helping in this country whatsoever.
He plays us some of the last voice messages he received from his cousin in Libya.
He said that the conditions here are absolutely dreadful. While they keep us here, they give us food once every 48 hours. They give us a bun of bread and some water. That's all we're getting. If anyone talks too loud, they're getting smacked with a stick.
Thousands of miles away in Pakistani-administered Kashmir, the heartbreaking news has been filtering through. We've been told close to a dozen of those who are missing came from one tiny cluster of villages here. At the family home of Raja Aslam, relatives and neighbours have come to offer sympathy and prayers. This is his son Sajid. He filmed himself after arriving in Libya and hasn't been heard from after boarding the boat. It was his fourth attempt at getting to Europe.
We tried a lot to stop him, but he didn't listen. He went before via Turkey. 2 times he went there, but he had one mission, to go to Europe. Why? Because there is no work here, even if you're educated.
Okay, we are sending food now to the boat.
This is new footage of the ship that Sajid and hundreds of others were travelling on, taken just hours before it sank as a nearby commercial ship gave water and food to those on board. Back in Greece, we're heading to a processing centre where those rescued have been taken. Relatives crowd around a survivor, frantically showing him photographs, trying to confirm if their loved ones were definitely on board, if somehow they survived. I just spoke to one survivor of the shipwreck. He was too afraid, too upset to go on camera. But he told me there were around 750 people on board, largely from Pakistan, Egypt and Syria, including, he said, around 24 women and young children. He also said, despite what the Greek coastguard has stated, that the ship sank shortly after the coastguard tried to attach a rope to it. Maz from Nottingham has also managed to speak with one of the survivors about his relatives.
He said that there was on the bottom part of the ship with where most of the Pakistanis were on the bottom part of the ship, he said, with the ladies and kids. And so he said when the ship went over, they didn't stand a chance.
So in a way, it's obviously bad news, but at least
it's very bad news. But at least we've had a little bit of closure on the fact that he was actually on the boat. But obviously, if he's not here, then he's definitely, they're not alive anymore. So.
Many of those here now are simply hoping to be able to take a body back home to bury. 78 have been recovered and are being identified, but hundreds more won't ever be found. Despite the dangers, today another boat carrying migrants and refugees set off from Libya and had to be rescued by a charity. Others across North Africa wait for their turn to make the perilous journey.
Well, earlier I spoke to Manos Logothetis, who oversees refugee reception at the Greek Ministry of Migration. And I began by asking him, first of all, why did that boat sink?
Well, that's a very straight question. It is really difficult to answer. We only have clues about what happened, but the thing is that we had a really old boat that was not supposed to carry that many people. It was, you know, a 40-year-old, I think, boat with something around 500 people on it. The people that were on the boat were not familiar with sea, and they were actually, you know, under a lot of pressure of what to do, whether they should let the Greek authorities rescue them or they should continue their trip to Italy as they planned.
So did the Greek Coast Guard at any point try to attach a rope to this vessel?
They tried to do so really early on. That was around 2 hours before the incident of the capsizing of the boat, and this was due to the effort to negotiate a rescue.
So why did the Greek Coast Guard want to attach a rope to the vessel?
Because they wanted to go close to the vessel. So there was, as it was described by the captain, I think, of our port police, as I heard it, I'm describing a story that I heard, is that we tried to go in parallel to the boat with a smaller rib, you know, the inflatable boat, in order to communicate with them, but they resisted that.
During that time, then, did the Greek Coast Guard engage with anyone on board the vessel, like face to face? Were they close enough to have that sort of contact?
Yes, they were talking to the captain, I think, or to members of the whole crowd there, because they do not wear uniforms. You talk to whoever responds to you.
Do you think that the actions of the Greek Coast Guard might have in any way contributed to this vessel sinking?
No, it is the other way around. We always take notion of not causing more distress to the boat than the distress they are under already. Can you imagine what would happen if we tried violently to get aboard the ship and the ship capsized due to the efforts of the Coast Guard?
Does Greece push back migrants at sea to be rescued by other countries like Turkey, like Tunisia?
No. Greece is just defending the borders of Greece and the borders of Europe.
So what do you say then to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, who said last year that they have interviewed thousands of people across Europe who have been pushed back, and at sea people report being left adrift in life rafts or sometimes even forced directly into the water?
He should come and see by his own eyes. You know, a testimony of someone who is in the state of being an asylum seeker or refugee does not mean that he is 100% true in what he's describing.
Because one reason that these migrants might have been so determined to get to Italy and not to engage with the Greek authorities is because of these pushbacks, because of the hardline policy that Greece is taking with migrants.
No, this is not the reason. I have the definite reason of why this is happening. Italy is within Schengen area, but Greece is an island of Schengen area. We have land borders that are being guarded because all our land borders are with states that are not within Schengen area. If someone ends in Greece, cannot reach Europe through land. He has to cross the sea again. Because
Greece is getting a lot of criticism over the way that this has been handled. And it sounds like you're saying to me, you don't think that's fair.
Of course it's not fair. You know, Greece is not only taking a big criticism, but is also taking a big burden and a big share of the whole problem. So I understand why we receive all this criticism, because it is very easy to make this criticism when you are far away.
Manos Logothetis, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.